just so everybody has this info of how expert Mike and Jason are, I'm going to read their bios real quick. So Michael is a retirement plan advisor at CUI Wealth Management, specializing in 401k plans. He has been nominated for the National Association of Plan Advisors Top Retirement Plan Advisors Under 40 and is a member of the OSAIC, did I say that right? OSAIC Wealth Retirement Plan Council. Michael represents his industry as a delegate for the American Retirement Association's DC Fly-In in 2024 and 2025, meeting with lawmakers and their staff in Washington, D.C. In addition to his advisory role, Michael has served as a guest lecturer for the Plan Sponsor Council of America's PSCA Certified Plan Sponsor Professional, CPSP designation. He has participated as a panelist at the National OSAIC Connect ED Conference and has spoken at the Salt Lake Society for Human Resource Management 401k and Benefit Summit. Michael is a board member of the Salt Lake Society of Human Resource Management. And I just have to say, Michael, I think it's really cool that you've been out to DC to help move laws and other things, policies forward to benefit people in this area, which is really cool.
Yeah, thanks. It's a lot of fun. It's a different it's a different atmosphere. It's a different experience. But I've really enjoyed going out to DC, and it's been fun. I've enjoyed it a lot.
That's awesome. And getting to know Jason Knight, he is a partner and principal benefits consultant at CUI Benefits, where he helps employers build forward-thinking, cost-effective benefit strategies that align with both workforce needs and business goals. With a strong focus in financial stewardship, transparency, and data-informed decision-making, Jason collaborates closely with CFOs, HR leaders, and executive teams to implement innovative solutions ranging from self-funded and level-funded models to strategic cost containment and health plan optimization. Known for his strategic mindset and clear-focused, client-focused communication style, Jason is passionate about reshaping the traditional benefit experience to deliver greater value for employers and employees alike. He holds a Bachelor of Science of Economics from the University of Utah and is a certified self-funding specialist, and he lives in Sandy with his family. So thanks for joining us, Jason.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm going to pass over the screen control over to Michael, and then we will get started with the training here.
Awesome. And Jason and I, we've known each other for over a decade, and we've worked together for some time, which has been a lot of fun. We're pretty relaxed about things. We've got a presentation put together, but if you have questions, thoughts, anything like that, please jump in. We love to hear your questions, and both Jason and Matt are moderating. Can you see the screen okay that I'm sharing here? Okay, perfect.
That's great.
Awesome. Let's jump in. So at the end of the presentation, we've got a checklist that you can download that just shows how to make sure that your benefits are more of a strategy and not just a commodity. So Jason, why don't you, I know we've done some brief introductions. If you want to just take a minute and go through that, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's me again. Again, certified self-funding specialist. I focus on alternative plan designs, plan structures, really just helping employers, especially in that small to medium-sized space. So kind of sub 500 employees. That is our focus and bread and butter when it comes to thinking outside the box, figuring out how we can go from a 12-month cycle of doing the same thing and expecting different results to actually how can we put our benefit strategy and specifically our healthcare and our medical plan into a multi-year strategy.
And then you already got a little bit of a brief introduction about me. I'll just sum it up to say, you have a problem when you come home from work and your 8-year-old son has created a Super Smash Brother level called 401k that even has, a standing desk. And so that's when I knew, probably a little bit of a nerd when it comes to 401k plans. But before we get into the meat of all of this, one of the things, this is actually a snapshot from the last time I was in DC. I always like to remind people that, according to the Boston College National Retirement Risk Index, there's a lot of people that are not ready for retirement. So I always like to get the word out there and make sure that employers are making strides to improve their retirement plans and to offer retirement plans so that people can have the opportunity to save for retirement. So first thing I want to talk to you about is the problem when it comes to loyalty. The big problem is that there's a lot of employees out there that we focus too much on retention and not enough on loyalty. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. This is kind of what the landscape looks like. There's declining engagement, there's rising turnover, there's quiet quitting. I don't know if any of you have dealt with that at all. And there's a lot of competition for talent. So we want to make sure that you have the tools and resources that you need so that you can make good decisions that help employees show that you want them around and that and to provide loyalty. So one of the questions we have is, why is loyalty more important than, why is loyalty matters more than retention? Retention, we focus on retention, that's keeping people, but loyalty is actually having them engaged in the company, having them support the mission, having them excited about working for you and being part of the mission that your company provides. And so I think we need to kind of shift from that idea of, hey, how do we get and retain more employees, to how do we make sure that we are showing that we want them to be around and that we want them to be part of the process. So in order to do this, we can look at it from a simple equation, what we call the loyalty equation. And Jason, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, and one thing that was kind of ironic is just this morning when I got onto LinkedIn, it has like the little LinkedIn survey things that pop up. And it was, the question was phrased, if someone offered you 30% more today, would you go? And the answers were around loyalty. And it was, yeah, there was not like the majority were like, yeah, absolutely. And then it was like, I would negotiate. And then it was like, no, loyalty matters. And that was surprisingly, it was just on point for our conversation today. So I think going to this loyalty equation, to your point, Mike, I think a lot of employers have really set their mind around loyalty or retention has to do with really just dollars. I think in a lot of sense, bells and whistles, that sort of stuff. Whereas, loyalty is really what I see when I see trust, financial stability, and shared goals is employers that want to see you as a person. Yeah. They want to see you as an individual that has individual needs, expectations, wants, goals, aspirations in your career. Obviously, the financial part is a component of that. Otherwise, I don't think any of us would be working if we didn't have to, or we'd be doing different things, or in some varying capacity. But I think that trust and shared goals is overlooked by so many employers.
I 100% agree. And one of the reasons why this is important is this is just this year from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and this is actually lower than the previous year, but just in July of 2025 alone, 3.1 million people have quit their jobs, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So improving the ways that we are showing that we care about employees, that helps reduce, making sure that this is not you, that fewer of these are from your company for people leaving to other places that they think are going to provide better value. So what I want to talk about is I want to talk about costs, myths, measurements, and strategies. And we'll kind of bounce around, and we may skip some of the slides, but we're more than happy to go over anything that you guys want to go over. So question is, what are the costs of employee turnover? And sometimes we look at like the cost of going and putting out an advertisement, trying to find a new employee. But sometimes we neglect some of the other costs that are associated. There are, according to this SHRM article that was recently put out there, often the cost of employee turnover is it can be upwards of 3 to 4 times the salary of the employee. But the problem is most of those are costs that are really hard to quantify, and they might not show up all at once, so it's easy to neglect. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on soft cost versus hard cost, Jason, because you see that a lot as well with the companies you work with as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, hard costs, it's what your CFO and your controller want to see. They want to understand, but obviously our target audience for education and these types of training sessions is HR related, and there's a lot more on the soft costs of that, and most of that surrounds time management. Every time you terminate or hire somebody, there's hours that somebody is putting in to make that happen. Generally from an HR generalist, HR manager position. Also, that soft cost, I think that's often overlooked is high turnover and employee burnout that really impact your company culture overall. It never looks good when you can't keep people or when there's high turnover. I mean, that is Mobrium's MO is like how do we improve your reputation as an employer? And I think there are very few things that have a higher negative impact than your employee burnout and time management issues inside of an organization. And those are huge soft costs that are often overlooked.
Well, and it's kind of like there's that idea that there's book knowledge and then there's street knowledge, and there's a lot of things that you can put processes in place to train people, but there's there's intuition that's lost. You lose someone that knows instinctively what to do, and that can have a big impact on a company. So just looking at, say you have 100 employees in your company, you have a 10% turnover, the replacement cost of each of those employees is going to be a little bit different. But here in this example, we see on paper, it looks like over the course of many years, the cost is, it can easily be close to $1 million, but a lot of those are in costs that are really hard to actually quantify. So now we understand the cost of disloyalty or the cost of losing those employees. Let's talk about some of the myths about employee loyalty. Jason, you want to talk a little bit about this right here?
Yeah, so we touched on it a little bit already. I mean, I think where the biggest myth is the pay side of things, the pay structure. We have clients, we have organizations that I'll use transportation, for example. In a lot of those organizations, everything is about mileage. What do I get paid per mile? What do my routes look like? How many miles I can get in the day? We have clients that are complete polar opposites in how they approach that mindset, and they both do okay when it comes to keeping butts in seats and their trucks on the road. But you'll have those where they have much lower turnover. Loyalty is important to them. They've done other things besides the pay aspect. And those individuals, those organizations will have a much lower turnover overall to similar clients we have that are the opposite. Is everything is about that penny per mile difference. And what ends up happening is you end up with a bunch of employees where that is also their mentality, is if I can get literally 1 cent more per mile, but I'm driving hundreds of thousands of miles a year, at the company that is literally down the road, I'm going to do that. And you get that mentality versus you get the other mentality where they've actually built some employee loyalty and driver loyalty. And that example I gave where, they can be 5-10 cents less a mile, but they've built a culture, they've built, a benefit package and a level of engagement where their employees and their drivers actually feel heard and understood, and they're not just a logistics check mark to keep their trucks on the road. So both can work, but depending on your industry, that can have some serious impacts on your overall cost, and it's hard and soft costs there.
And then here's another area that I think would be good for you to talk about, Jason,
Yeah.
on benefits and why it's important.
Yeah, so we see this a ton, especially in the medical space, the healthcare space. There's a huge, I'll say it's a myth or misperception that that better benefits are whatever management determined is best. And when we're not engaging with our employees, having quote unquote better benefits is so subjective. Every employee, every workforce, every demographic, every industry is different. And that's where, actually having built a culture where your employees can engage with you and you actually receive that kind of feedback so that you can address, that 80% of the workforce that they will choose one job over another, regardless of salary or salaries that are close because of how the benefits are structured. Mm-hmm. So that's, the making the right investment. It doesn't mean that $0 deductible, that $500 deductible, it can mean that $5,000 deductible just as long as it's built right and it's presented right to employees.
And I think, here's kind of the bottom line that I look at is the average person spends a third of their life working, and they spend a third of their life sleeping. So that means there's only about a third of your life that's done that you're spending doing other things besides working and sleeping. So the big question is, what motivates employees to spend that time with your company? How are you showing that you're investing in them? I think sometimes in HR we're looking at the people, and sometimes in finance they're looking at the numbers, and it can be hard to distinguish between what is a cost versus an investment. And so I think it's important to really understand how your company runs and the employees, and show see how the value, what shows value to them as employees. So the other thing that is that's interesting is, we all know that there are different generations, and each generation is kind of motivated by different things. We've got the baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, and these are some of the key things that motivate each generation one from another. Now, this kind of is a little bit more 401k focused on this, but it kind of shows the extra pay raises versus the benefits, and what people typically value in these different demographics. I'm going to move on for the sake of time, but just kind of an interesting thing. Most companies have multiple generations that are working for them. So it's important to make sure that they're designing a benefits or 401k package that takes into account these different generations and how they perceive those benefit packages, and making sure that they're targeting that employee market. So different generations define loyalty differently. Benefits bridge those gaps, right? So if you do it right, that can be across different generations, so that you value those employees. We see a lot of companies that treat it as a check mark rather than a strategy. So let's talk a little bit and kind of unpack loyalty again. So we've got trust, we've got financial stability, and we've got shared goals. And this is kind of what that looks like. Trust, transparent communication, plan education, financial stability. That's, smart plan design, wellness programs, shared goals. So, making sure that you're aligning the mission essentially to the employees and the benefits that you are providing them. And I look at this as kind of like a table, a three-leg table. You can have two of these, but if you don't have all three of these, it can make it a lot more difficult to have employee loyalty with the company. One of the ways that people can do this to improve employee loyalty is through financial wellness, making sure that they have a program that explains how to manage their 401k, manage their finances. And I think there's a lot that you can do on the benefit side. I know, Jason, you talk about being benefit smart and making sure that you are that people know how to use their benefits, what a deductible is, all that kind of stuff. I think that's extremely important when it comes to how you put things together for your employees. So I'm going to run through a couple things real quick. T. Rowe Price, they recently did a study, and sometimes, like I said, we have this. There's kind of that pushback between the finance side and the HR side, and so I think one of the things that shows how a good, well-structured plan impacts the company and helps with employee loyalty is looking at how a well-structured plan actually can improve the gross margins for companies. It can also increase the profitability based on the studies that T. Rowe Price has done. It can also influence employees' behavior. So got that QR code. If you want to see that full study, go ahead and scan that there. But I thought it was really interesting. It's kind of that defining the difference between what is a cost versus what is an investment. And like I said, when it comes to 401k and benefits, sometimes it's looked like a cost more than a benefit to a lot of employers. Jason, you want to jump in on this right here?
Yeah, so you touched on a little bit with the compliance piece. We'll get employers, especially when they hit some of these magic numbers, like 50 full-time employees that they have to, or full-time equivalents where they have to put a medical plan in place. Even when you're trying to control costs and you're a very cost-conscious organization, there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. If it's just checking the box, that can lead to employee disruption. It can lead to employee frustration. Reputation can go down from an employee perception, and those are all things that you don't want and can have a negative impact on overall culture and loyalty. So the biggest thing on the medical side and the health and benefits in general is competitive. That's a struggle in today's world. So it comes down to how can we put something in that's tailored for your organization and can actually be utilized. That's great if it checked the compliance box, but if it's either unaffordable or it's just an absolute garbage benefit, then that's not helping anybody. It hurts you from an employer standpoint for all the reasons I just said, and then the employee standpoint of you need that benefit or you want to be paying for something. If you have to have it, then you want to at least have something that you're paying for that's worthwhile and functional that you can use in every day.
Let's talk about how to better improve that, how to cater your benefits to improve employee loyalty. So the biggest thing that we see is it's important for you to know your company, know what is your turnover, what is your unique value proposition, what makes you different from the competitors, what are your goals, what are you reaching for. Understanding your company culture and understanding your budget is extremely important, because really the benefits package that you put in place or the retirement plan that you put in place or how you structure it should align with your company goals. So we talked a little bit about different generations and what motivates them. So it's important to design it to your generation, but it's also important to design it to your company goals. And we're going to show some examples here in a few minutes.
And I would say on that it's also important to understand that it's not that like comparisons are very important. Yes. Knowing your company and having an understanding of where you actually sit within your industry is very important in knowing and understanding your company, especially things like turnover and engagement. There's obviously ranges. You have those high turnover industries: construction, manufacturing, transportation, hospitality, where there's a huge difference between a 30% and a 50% participate or a turnover. But those are also pretty normal, pretty common turnover rates within those industries. And so, if you are doing exceptionally well in that is a great benchmark of, hey, we have 10, 15% year over year. Inversely, if you are more of a white or gray collar industry, you're a law firm or an engineering firm and you have 30% turnover, that's above the norm for your industry. That's something that, understanding your company and then digging into these other drivers that can be causing those loyalty issues that you're experiencing.
There's some great, to your point, Jason, there's some great resources for benchmarking, where your plan sits, even regionally or by industry. And actually, the National SHRM, if you're a member of National SHRM, they actually have some databases in their resources. If you look into the employer benefits section, you can actually kind of see where you sit. But it's always, to your point, Jason, you got to have a good comparison to see if your plan is actually competitive. There's a lot of people that may have come from a different industry, and the plan that they have looks really good compared to what they were before, but how does it compare to other competitors within your industry and your plan size? One of the things I think is important as people are reviewing, how they've put their package, their benefits package, or their retirement plan package together is checking on the costs. Here's kind of an example. Let's say you've got a company that's got 10 million in assets in the retirement plan. Participants are putting money in, 300,000 every year, and there's a rate of return of 6% annually. So if you look at that and look at the difference that even just 0.25 in excess fees can make over the course of 20 years, that can add up really quickly. Now, a lot of participants don't even necessarily realize that they're paying those fees for their 401k plan. They just might recognize that their investments don't look like they've performed as well. But that's a huge difference that can amount to tens of thousands of dollars in the benefit of employees are leaving on the table. And I think that the biggest thing with this is just when employees know that you care about them and that you care about these types of things, that you're looking for ways to make it better, ways to improve it, and having those discussions when you make a change from one provider to another, and you let them know, hey, we looked at costs, we wanted to make sure you had competitive benefits. That makes a huge difference because it shows that you're looking out for them first, and that you're not just a stingy employer. So here are some of the things that you can do to benchmark your employer. Your employee benefits and your 401k. So there's fees, there's services. So being able to do a side by side of the different providers, technology integration. So this is on, it's fairly easy to get comparisons for your company size, but you can also look by industry and see what your participation rate looks like compared to others in the industry. See on the 401k what kind of match, what kind of plan design. Like I said, there's some awesome tools on SHRM's National SHRM's website. There's also with your advisor, your broker, they should be able to help you with reports. There's a lot of third-party providers that can benchmark these items for you. Let's jump into some strategy, and I'll give you a couple examples. So, when it comes to retirement plans, same with benefits, there's a lot of ways you can design the plan, whether you're starting out or you have an existing plan. So let's take a look at how a couple examples of how we've seen that work. And this is kind of more on the 401k side, but Jason, I'd love to hear your thoughts as we go. So we have a client that was trying to scale their business. They're like, hey, we're trying to build this thing. We want to hire another 150 employees. How do we get this to work? How do we scale the business? And so understanding, what they're trying to accomplish and understanding where they're currently at, we took a look at what they're currently doing. They had really poor participation in their 401k plan. And so we made some changes compared to the industry. Like, their industry was 85%. And they had 50% participation. So everything else about the plan looked really good, but the participation was bad. So in this case, we did an automatic enrollment and auto escalation to help essentially make it so you have to opt out rather than opt in. And then there's a messaging behind it, and the company basically said, hey, we want people to know that we are serious about them saving for their own retirement. And yes, they can opt out. Yes, they can. If they don't want to participate, that's totally fine. But the default is we want people to be prepared. We put education, did some online education and training, some in person. And what happens is when you do stuff like that is the employees start to see this is important enough to the company that they're taking time out of the day to educate us on how this works and making sure we know how this works. And that has been an extremely helpful scenario for that company in improving loyalty. I've got two other examples, and Jason, if you feel free to jump in, let me just finish up here, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts. So we have another company that has very specialized work. You know, they don't have a lot of employees. They're a pretty small company, but the people that they have in the company have very specialized knowledge. They have very unique things. So they're trying to make sure these people that they're giving above and beyond to show how special they are. So they put in place a profit sharing contribution where they give an awesome match, just awesome match where you're 100% vested from day one. But when the company did well, they put extra in a profit sharing, and they said, this is extra money that we want you to be around for a little bit longer to fully vest in this. We're going to give everyone a great match just for being here. But since we had a profitable year, we're giving a little bit of extra. So there's a little bit of a vesting schedule attached to that. And then the third one is, high-income earners are trying to reduce their tax. We implemented a cash balance plan, which allowed them to put a lot more in. We added a profit sharing contribution, which with vesting, that allowed them high income earners to reduce their tax liability. So overall, if you're to really sum all of this up, I would just say, once again, it's important to understand who your employees are, what your company is trying to do, where you're trying to go, and mindfully design your benefits and 401k plan, compare it to other benchmarks, industry and otherwise. And just by doing that and taking the lead and showing people that this is important to you, it'll show that you value your employees and that you're looking out for them. I know we're coming to time, but Jason, if you want to add to that before we jump into the last section here.
No, I think it's great. We could find similar examples for different industries and goals and objectives, similar to what we've talked about, and the results, figure out what we want our results to be and what we're working towards, and then, reverse engineer that. That's kind of the benefits world, is figuring out, understanding your employees first, and then, okay, how can we put something in place that actually meets their needs?
So, optimize your loyalty, not just for compliance, right? So understand your turnover benchmark, make sure that your fees are good, not just in general, but for your plan size, for your industry. Update your plan design to mimic what your company culture is going for, what you're trying to accomplish there. Design your benefits in a way that you're trying to show how much you care about your employees and communicate the value consistently and measure that. So once again, it comes from the top down. So it's important to make sure that you connect the company culture with the benefits. But it's also important, just as important, to market that and make sure that the employees understand why you're making the decisions that you're making. So the final question I have for you is, what will you do to build loyalty? So I just want you to think about that. What can you do today to see what you're currently offering, see how it aligns, and see how you can make changes to it. As promised, well, let me just go to, I have to put disclosures out there because I'm in the securities industry, but I'll leave this up as we do Q&A in case you want to download that strategy assessment. But that's about all I've got for you. I'm happy to do some Q&A, but thanks for having us. What questions do we have?
So I had just a couple thoughts here. So I think, you're totally right as far as, benefits having a different perception of value than just dollars, because there's also the convenience, peace of mind, security that comes tied to those financial benefits. Just from our perspective at Mobrium, we're very big on feedback. I would add to what Michael and Jason have said to ask your employees, on what's important to them, and use that feedback as a data point to help inform a tailored plan that fits for your organization. And another piece to that is on Glassdoor, where employees are leaving ratings and reviews of their experience. There's also a specific area for employees to rate and review benefits.
Yeah.
And that's a perception, a public-facing perception of your benefits, and that could certainly influence job seekers, what they're thinking about you and your current employees. If they see, oh, well, the ratings of our benefit package is only 3.1 and this other company has a 4.2 on their benefits, that could artificially be driving some turnover. So it's important as an employer to build something that's truly good on the inside using all these big pieces of info that Jason and Michael have shared, but also care about how the reflection of that benefit package is showing up publicly. But those were just a couple thoughts. This is amazing, super helpful, and I definitely encourage everyone to check out the checklist and connect with CUI to continue learning and growing in this area.
Awesome. Thanks for your feedback, Matt, and that
appreciate it.
To some additional thoughts. So we appreciate you guys taking the time and for the opportunity to present here with the Mobrium team.
Cool, thank you. And before we wrap it up, any other questions? Feel free to put anything in chat that you've had. We'll include contact info for Michael and Jason in the follow-up. I see some thank you messages there. So that's great. Just to give you, I'm going to give everyone just a quick preview of next month's event, just so you have some info on that as we're wrapping up here. I'm actually going to be doing next month's event, and let me just pull this up real fast. Okay. Right here. Can you guys see that screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here's the next month event. We're actually going to be talking about AI and how AI search results or answers to prompts are affected by what is posted on you across the internet. So we're going to talk about how employee reviews are directly reflecting your AI reputation, whether that's a job seeker or even a potential customer that could be searching you. And so we'll be diving into that. And then thanks for joining today's webinar. If you do have questions about your employer reputation, ratings, and reviews from the side of Mobrium, feel free to check out our website or email us, and definitely connect with the CUI team as well. We'll send out their info in the follow-up. So thank you everyone for joining, and until next time, we'll see you next month.